everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me today. Today we're going to do a video on flipping furniture on a budget. Can it be done? The answer is yes, it definitely can be. When I first started almost 6 years ago flipping furniture, I bought my first piece and I had very minimal investment in the piece. I didn't have a lot of supplies, I didn't have a lot of tools. So it can definitely be done. If this is something you want to get into doing, maybe just make a little extra money. You can do it, because there is extra money to be made. So I'm going to talk to you today about a couple of things and how you get started. We'll talk about some bare minimum products that you're going to need, and we'll tally it up at the end to see just how much we spend, so that you know what you can do to get started with this. So I'm standing in front of my staging area today, which is a little different than most of my videos. I'm always in front of my workbench, which we'll move over there later. But I wanted to feature this because this is a key part of selling furniture. Whether you're doing this, like I said, as a hobby or as a business, it doesn't matter. What you want to portray to the potential customer or client is you want them to look at you professionally. You want them to see that piece of furniture as the focus. And having some sort of a staging area and staging items to go with that piece and present it in its best light is super key to selling these pieces. So we're going to talk about staging too. Now, not everybody has the advantage of having a staging area such as mine. It's a built-in staging area that my husband made for me. He works part-time, and it was his idea to give me something more permanent since I'm doing this so much. So that's not how I started though. So we'll go over the things about how to get started, how to make it look great, and how to get started flipping your furniture without spending a ton of money. So let's go ahead and get started on the products. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Let's talk about the products that you're going to need. Now keep in mind, when I started my first project, I didn't even have half of this. I had a paintbrush, my piece of furniture, I think 2 cans of paint, and yeah, that was it. So you can literally do it for that too. But these are a couple of things I think on a budget are good to have in your shop to get started. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, first thing you're gonna need, obviously, is a paintbrush. Now, the paintbrush I'm gonna show you is a little more on the costly side. So you say, well, hello, how is that budget friendly? I looked all over my shop. So this is my Klingon. I looked all over my shop for my first brushes that I had, and I cannot find them. I know I didn't get rid of them, but here's what they are. A Purdy or a Wooster brush. You can get those at Lowe's. I'll flash all the price points down below, and then at the end, we're gonna add it up and see how much we've spent. If you go with one of those brushes, they're a great entry-level brush. There is absolutely nothing wrong with them. I used them for a long time before I started to get some of my other collection going. Now, if you do want to make an investment in the beginning, these run about $25 to $35. A Wooster or a Purdy brush, which I would select their Pro line. They are a great synthetic brush, and they range from about $5 to $12 depending on the size. If you're curious what size you should start with, I would start with a 2-inch and then go from there. Add to your collection after that. A 2-inch brush is really good for anything. I mean, you could even do a small piece with it, but they're great for dressers and things like that. Okay, so I'm sorry I don't have a visual on that one to show you, but a brush is gonna be your number one thing you need. The next thing you're gonna need is paint. Now, you guys know, if you follow me, I love General Finishes paint. It is one of my favorites. I use this by the gallon. This is one of my smaller pints that I have here. Now, what I would suggest you do to get started is try different paints. I have a ton of review videos on my channel here, so if you're not sure where to get started, look at some of those reviews, may help you decide what paint to start with. I like to recommend this for beginners. It's self-sealing, it's self-leveling, it's a very nice coverage, and it's easy to work with. The price point on this ranges on your retailer from about $17 to $19 for a pint. That's pretty competitive in the market with other brands as well. I just chose this one because you guys know I love my General Finishes. This has a really nice satin finish to it. It's very easy to work with. And it also can be thinned if your consistency is a little thick. So good price point on this paint. Okay, so obviously those are 2 things that you're gonna need to start painting, right? But there are some other things that we need to introduce as well. Before you just hit the ground running with your paintbrush and your paint, there's a few things you're gonna need to do. First and foremost, you're going to need to prep your piece. Now, I have used this for years. I absolutely love it. I buy it by the gallon because it's cheaper that way. You can buy it in this bottle as well. and you can get this at Lowe's or Home Depot. Almost everything I'm gonna recommend today, you can either get Lowe's, Home Depot, Amazon, Ace. It's pretty common. I'm not gonna recommend anything that you have to go looking for far and few between. But Krud Kutter is a degreaser, deglosser. It is a great, it's like TSP for those of you that are like, well, what's better? They're equivalent. They're gonna do the same job. It's gonna go ahead and get all that gook and grime off of your piece of furniture and get it ready for your paint, okay? So definitely need to have some prep materials. The next thing you want to have on hand is sandpaper. So the sandpaper is going to be used during your process quite a bit. Sometimes you're going to need to scuff sand in the beginning when you're doing your prep, okay? So a good scuff sand would be like a 320 or 400 grit sandpaper. Very inexpensive. You can buy it, 5 or 6 sheets in a package. Or you can go with these guys. I like these. These are in my Amazon shop. They're flexible, so they're really nice for working with curves. It's a sanding pad. It basically does the same thing. Both of these are really good for prepping, for sanding in between coats of paint, and also for finish sanding. So these are really, really great to have on hand. All right. Then primer. Primer is one of those things where there is so many different types of primer out there. I have a video on all things primer if you're curious, but I'm going to give you a very economical choice and a very good way to prime your piece, because a lot of people have challenges with primer when they're applying it by hand. Using a brush, it can tend to be really difficult to work with. Primer is a whole different beast. And so a lot of times I'll get messages where they'll say, okay, I primed my piece and it looks really brushstroke and a mess. What do I do with that? Do I sand it? Do I just apply my paint? I mean, because your paint finish is only going to look as good as what's underneath. So if your primer's a mess, then your paint's going to be a mess. So here's an easy way to prime your piece, and it's economical, and you can spray it. I use this all the time. This is one of my favorites here. This is a filler sandable primer, and there's also this one here. Like I said, there's a ton of different primers on the market. These are just the 2 right now that I have in my shop. This one I always have. Both very good price points on these, and you can usually get like a full dresser out of this, and then maybe some night tables too if you have to prime the whole thing. So if you want to know more about primer, go check out that video. I'm not going to delve too deep into that right now because I have a whole video on that about when to prime and what to do and all that stuff. But these are great economical choices for primer, and it alleviates the problem of brushing on your primer. Okay, now we're going to talk a little bit about something that may or may not be necessary. When you buy a used piece of furniture, there may be some small little things you have to fix on it. Some nicks, some dents, some dings, things like that. Well, you have 2 choices here. One is the wood putty. I use this all the time. It's good to have this on hand because it's really good for making that final finish look really beautiful. And then of course your sandpaper comes back around. So you have a lot of use of the sandpaper for a very, very cheap cost. The other thing that I like to use is this, which is Quickwood. Now this is used more for filling holes. It's an epoxy. You mix it together with your fingers, and I use it when I have to fill hardware holes. So this is also good just to kind of have on hand if you don't want to use the wood putty, or you want a different alternative to the wood putty, something that's going to dry really hard, dries a little bit faster, and it's a little thicker. So the wood putty you kind of have to build up. This, not so much. Both really good products to have on hand for a first timer, because like I said, you may want to fix some of the things that might be wrong with that piece of furniture unless it's in absolutely flawless condition, and then you're good to go. All right. And then some things you may even have in your house that you might need to use. Something I always have here in the shop is some Stretch Tight wrap. And this is from Costco. It's just the big one, but you can get any of these at your local grocery store. You may even have them in your house. What do I use that for? I tear off a piece and I put my brush in it so that I don't have to wash my brush in between coats while it's drying. I just wrap it up, throw it on my workbench, move on to a different project. I can come back and start fresh again. So that's just really handy to have in your shop as well. All right, and the last thing that I have here that I find essential to having in my shop for a multitude of reasons is these guys. These microfiber cloths, I get these at Harbor Freight. Harbor Freight is a good place when you're on a budget to buy some supplies. So if you guys have one of those, or you can go online and order some things, I would suggest looking there. But these are awesome. I use these to wipe down my furniture because painted furniture is a little different. You don't want to use a tack cloth to wipe down, let's say, excess dust that has gotten on your first coat, and you want to make sure your second coat is really good to go, so you want to wipe it down. Or let's say you're sanding in between coats and you've got to get rid of all that sanding dust. These are what you want to use. The tack cloths they have oil in them, and they will deposit some oil on that painted surface. So you want to be really careful, especially if you push it all into that surface. So I don't even bother with those. I use tack cloths for staining projects. These are great for painted projects. And again, Harbor Freight. So this is a really great product to have in your shop. I buy the biggest package I can find. Okay, so the last thing, which is really the first thing, is your piece of furniture. If you don't have anything in your house that you want to paint, where do you find your furniture on a budget? I've talked about this in another video a long time ago, but there are many places to look. There's Facebook Marketplace, there's Facebook local groups, there are thrift stores, which can tend to be a little bit higher on the price, so just watch your pricing on things like that. And when I say watch your pricing, you're thinking, well, what do I compare it to? Compare it to Facebook, compare it to Craigslist. If you see a table on Craigslist that's $25 and you go to a thrift store and it's $35, you know if it's a similar table, that's just too high. I typically don't buy my pieces from thrift stores. I get most of my things on Facebook, on Craigslist. We do have a Restore Habitat for Humanity here, also Goodwills, but Goodwills can also be high too. So you just kind of have to watch your pricing. But I would recommend starting with something really small, and then after oh my God, there's a mosquito on the camera. Hold on. Okay, so that's kind of where I find my furniture. Craigslist, Facebook. There is OfferUp, which you can check. Sometimes you get some great deals on OfferUp. So just, kind of look at the different places and see what similar items are going for. You'll know right away. You don't want to pay too terribly much for a piece. Let's say I'm going to give you an example. So let's say you're going to get started. You just want to try out this painting thing, and you purchase a nightstand or a small side table. I would say your price point, even our markets may be different, but I would say your price point can be anywhere from $15 to $25 for a small end table. I'll pop a picture up here to show you guys. I just purchased one myself. It was $20. It was an antique, and I did buy it for a client, so I knew that my budget, what my budget was. But that gives you an idea of what you should spend on your first piece of furniture, okay? Lastly, I want to talk about staging. Okay, staging is one of those things that has evolved for me. When I first started, okay, I had no staging. I'm going to show you guys pictures of how my staging has evolved, and you're going to go, oh my God, that's crazy. My first piece sold like that. Now, it might have had something to do with that I priced it probably too low because I had no idea what I was doing, but it doesn't matter. Somebody saw it, they liked it, they wanted it. But as time went on, I realized I could appeal to more people if I presented my pieces well. And then after I started staging with the sheet, I had a comment that somebody said, you should try a backdrop because your pieces are beautiful, but I'm not focused on the piece. And that's so essential. You want to make somebody focus on just the piece, not what's going on around it. So I went to Amazon, and that's my second place that I started with my staging. I got a photo backdrop. I think I had two, and they were brick. I was told by somebody once, by a few somebodies, you need to have a solid white wall, and that's how it has to be, and that's gonna look the best. Okay, not for me, don't agree with that. That might be for some people, and that's fine, but that doesn't suit my personality, and I didn't want to do that. So I still presented my pieces very professionally with my Amazon backdrops. I had these fake brick backdrops. Again, I'll pop in all these pictures so you guys can see this. And I had people that actually thought they were real walls. So, you know, there's that. All right, if that doesn't work for you, let's say you want to find a spot in your home to stage. You have a really nice spot in your home. If you don't mind moving your furniture in and out, do that. It didn't work for me because it was a pain to move furniture in and out of the house since I work in an exterior workshop. So that's when maybe the sheet or the backdrop, photo backdrop comes in handy. After that, my husband decided that what a great thing if I did you a built-in, and he built mine out of all reclaimed wood. Now, you know, not everybody has the luxury of having that done, and I totally understand that. But when I decided to take this from less of a hobby, more of a full-time business, I thought that was a super great idea, and I was really excited about it, and I absolutely love my staging area. It does exactly what I wanted it to do. It makes me appear professional. It makes me appear like I'm a store. I get asked probably on the daily, where's your store located? And that's exactly what I want you to think. I want you to think I am just like a brick and mortar. I want you to think this is not out of my garage. This is not unprofessional. So I achieved what I wanted, and you can too, and you don't need to spend a ton of money. So there you go. I hope this video was helpful for you guys today. If you have any questions or positive comments, please make sure you leave them down below. I love engaging with you guys, and I will always answer all of your questions. Thank you so much for being subscribers. Keep subscribing so you can get all of my videos. And if this wasn't enough information for you and you're raring to go and you have a ton of questions, keep in mind that I do teach one-on-one. And if you want more information about that, I will put that in the comments section, and you guys can purchase direct from my website. I offer one-on-ones for 30 minutes for $25, or if you need a full hour, they're $45. So thank you again, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.